You get the opportunity to find out the truth behind one unsolved case. Which are you choosing? If you're from Mexico, the Ayotzinapa case where 43 students were taken and murdered, there has never been an official statement from the Mexican government, but it's suspected that the government and the militia were involved in the kidnappings. There's a documentary on Netflix if someone is interested. They recently arrested the mayor and some cops for their roles in the massacre. Another high-ranking official was also arrested. He was smiling and didn't look at all bothered during the arrest. Local cops will take the fall and no one of importance will ever face any consequences. 2 boys I went to school with were killed in a hit and run by the side of the road while walking home from a party. According to some reports, only one of the boys died from being hit by a car and the other appeared to have been beaten to death. It's been 20 years and no one has ever confessed or offered any information about the case. Are you by chance from Butler, Pa? Yes, indeed. I was wondering if anyone would recognize this story. Caught my eye immediately. I am also from the area, although I never knew the boys. I think about this case very frequently as well and I still see updates from the family every now and then. I hope someday something comes out. The way the boys died in 2 different ways boggles my mind a bit. The driver of the car that hit the first probably didn't want the second one to be a witness. That seems to be the most likely common theory that I have heard. For all my French Redditors here, I will say the Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès case. The guy killed all his family and buried them under his concrete deck, before disappearing completely without leaving any traces, and it has been more than 10 years. I honestly think he changed his name, got new documentation and living somewhere without anyone noticing. He got a dust filter for a Hoover Max Extract Pressure Pro Model 60. So he's in Nebraska managing a Cinnabon? What happened to Madeleine McCann? The disappearance of Malaysian Airline Flight 370 is up there too. Malaysian Airline Flight 370. This one bothers me, though I fully accept the best explanation that this was a suicide designed to be mystery. It is just so awful though to think that somebody deciding to kill themselves had so little regard for other humans that they would just take hundreds of others with them. Pilots committing suicide by crashing a commercial plane is not as uncommon as you would want to believe historically. As a result, many, if not most, countries have rules that there must be 2 people in the cockpit at all times to prevent this from happening. I.e., if the co-pilot goes to the bathroom, a flight attendant sits in the cockpit until they return. While it is very rare now, one of the more popular theories around the cause of the 737 crash in China earlier this year is pilot suicide error. The German pilot who crashed the plane in a mountain a couple of years ago has forced a lot of European airlines to make sure a steward or stewardess join the cabinet when one of the pilots goes to the toilet. That has to be kind of awkward. Like, hey, I'm just here to make sure you don't act on any intrusive thoughts of embracing oblivion while our buddy is back there taking a whiz. Asha 9-year-old girl left her house in the middle of the night, while it was storming and cold, with a pre-packed bag of clothes. She had no reason to run away, and had limited computer access. A truck driver said they saw her walking that same early morning on the dark next to the highway, and that she ran into the woods. Over a year later, her backpack was found wrapped in a plastic bag about 26 miles away, which didn't yield any further developments. Why did she leave? Why did she run from the trucker? How did her backpack end up so far away? Is she still alive? Was she met with foul play? Edit, wow, did not expect this big of a response. Glad to see that she is clearly not forgotten, and hopefully one day the case will be solved. Asha degree is also very high out there on my list. Perhaps because this whole case seems so bizarre. She must have been either very unlucky to come across a bad person that night, or things were even more sinister. If you read her case on Wikipedia, it's even more creepy. A year after she disappeared, her backpack was found in a shed, not too far from the highway where she disappeared. Supposedly, among the items, were clothing that didn't belong to her, as well as a ring that also didn't belong to her. Most creepy of all, there was a photograph of an unidentified girl around her age. To this day, authorities have no idea who that unidentified girl in the photograph is. Here be the link for anyone else who is curious. Jeffrey Epstein. If it doesn't have to be a major case, then my friend's murder. He was killed 10 years ago over Thanksgiving weekend, and his case still remains open today. His family deserves to know. Edit, there were so many replies to this comment it'd take me a very long time to respond. I appreciate the kind words and well wishes. For those in a similar situation, I feel for you. Everyone deserves justice and to truly feel peace. I won't be sharing his details here for privacy, but a well-known podcaster actually saw this post and has reached out, so there is a possibility my friend's story will be shared. God, I can't imagine not having that closure. My mom was murdered and the killer was caught within the week, thank God. But that was the longest week of my life. The pain remains, of course, but not knowing the who, what, how would eat me from the inside out. Frankly, I still have a ton of questions as the killer to this day denies it, but at least I had the court case and the overwhelming evidence to go by. All I can do is fill in the blanks. But having nothing? My sympathies to you and your friend's family frown. There was a kid that went missing right around my hometown when I was a kid. Couple years younger than me. It was on the news a bit, it kinda fizzled out and I haven't been able to find anything since. Still see flyers for him now and then. Kyron Horman. I was around the same age as Kyron Horman and I remember watching the news. The most prominent thing that still sticks out to me to this day is how they froze a cake for him, hoping he'd be home for him to blow out his candles and have a slice. I hope Terry's justice for him one day. Oh man, that's heartbreaking. I think disappearances are the worst. With regular killings at least you know your son or daughter is dead and while it's terrible there is closure. With disappearances they could be in someone's basement being tortured or buried in a random ditch in the forest never to be found. It's heartbreaking not knowing what happened to your kid. Zodiac Killer. The ducked up thing about that case is we almost had him. He killed a taxi driver, the police came there, but because of reports that a black man had killed the driver, the cops let a suspicious white guy leaving the scene go without questioning him. I heard somewhere that a child saw the suspect and misspoke, referring to a man in shadows as a black man. Worse than you described. He was stopped by the cops while he was fleeing the scene from the taxi murder. They called out from their car, "Hey, you see any black guys around here?" "Yeah, I saw one running that way." He was covered in Paul Stein's blood, but because the cops were looking for a black man, they didn't even stop. He mocked them about that in his next letter to the Chronicle. "I was hiding in the bushes in the park. I could hear the cops everywhere. They even stopped me. You are incompetent and I am everything." They also almost had him at a gas station too. Set a sting operation, but the sheriff's men didn't wear good enough disguises. He called the clerk and told him to get the cops hiding in the back on the line. Then he shit-talked to the sheriff officer about how stupid they were dressed. He never returned. The boy in the box, especially so because his identity was just told to us today. His full name, which hasn't been known for over 65 years now, is Joseph Augustus Sorelli. His family lived in the same town this entire time. Weird they never looked for him. Yeah. He has siblings who are still alive and I guess nobody questioned where he went. I thought the same thing, but apparently all his siblings were born after he died. They probably had no clue that he was their brother this whole time. John Bonet. Alcatraz escapees. I know it's very recent, but the Idaho College murders. The fact these kids were killed while others were in the house is the most befuddling to me. It makes me think of the Wonderland murders, where someone who wasn't targeted was killed just for being Taribu. The kids in Idaho weren't. It's morbid, but I'm very curious. A previous tenant from 2019 has said that you can't really hear anything between the first and second floors. They would have the TV blasting on the second floor and could not hear it on the first floor. Where is Shelley Miscavige? Yes. Personally, I think she's been long dead and that her husband killed her. But gosh, it's frustrating that we don't know for sure. I would be more surprised if she was found alive and well than I would if she was found dead from murder. Jack the Ripper definitely. Time-traveling serial killer fanatic who wanted to meet Jack the Ripper, ends up being Jack the Ripper. Spoiler alert, he's also the Zodiac Killer.